Could the results from the state's largest test for Indiana public schools be thrown out? Good evening, everyone. I'm Todd Connor.
And I'm Jenna Coy. The State Department of Education has hired a third party to determine whether this year's ISTEP testing interruptions made the high-stakes test invalid for students.
The company behind the testing, CTB McGraw-Hill, experienced problems that knocked tens of thousands of students offline while trying to take the test. These problems continued and set testing behind for days. Even after the login problem was fixed, testing operated at only 50% capacity. State lawmakers want answers. They're planning a hearing to address the problems. For teachers and schools, the impact ranges from state funding to teacher contract negotiations. Our TV6 reporter Norman Cox has more on today's announcement. Norman.
State Superintendent Glenda Ritz has hired an outside firm, the National Center for the Improvement of Educational Assessment, to go over all aspects of the ISTEP test and determine how much the interruptions may have damaged student scores and whether some or all of those scores should be thrown out. Ritz called all those interruptions unacceptable and said the problems, believed to have been caused by the vendor's lack of server capacity, have called into question the validity of all the test scores.
These results have a large impact on schools and communities. School accountability, as well as teacher compensation and evaluation, are based in part on this data. Because the stakes of this test are so high, the results must be beyond reproach.
Although technicians from the state and the test vendors, CTB McGraw-Hill, monitored the testing and eventually brought it back on time, 78,000 students, about 1 in 6, suffered delays. And Ritz said there may be reasons to invalidate even the scores of the students who were not interrupted. The vice president of the Indiana State Teachers Association, whose members' salaries are impacted by their kids' scores, calls the study a step in the right direction.
Well, I think that's the real issue, the high stakes piece. You know, any other year you would just say, oh, we'll re-give the test and see how, look at past years and see how the students perform. That's really not a good idea this time because of the impact.
House Republican Education Committee Chairman Bob Baining says this is the right move and needs to be done as quickly as possible. He agrees that it's possible that even the scores of students who were not interrupted might have to be thrown out.
They had one student that was able to complete the test, the one sitting right next to him wasn't, and they were concerned that questions might be shared with other students so that the validity of the test could be compromised in that way.
Ritz says the cost of the study will be below $54,000. She was vague about who would pay for it, but several state officials have said CTB McGraw-Hill should be penalized for failing to meet its contract terms, and that money used to pay for the study. I'm Norman Cox, RTV6.